So now, dear members of the State Committee, ladies and gentlemen, before starting today's meeting, I would like to take an opportunity and personally from the Committee of the Russian Space Agency and from you yourselves sitting here to congratulate Catherine Coleman with say happy birthday. Unfortunately, we cannot give her big gifts, so this is our little humble gift. Our Soyuz, the mock-up of our spacecraft, which they're going to fly to the International Space Station. After this meeting, I will hand it to you. Today, we're supposed to approve the backup and the main crew of the manned flight of Soyuz TMA-20. The Council of Chief Designers, Technical Management, and the Collegiate Committee of the Federal Agency, Space Federal Agency, having listened to all the reports of the status of International Space Station and about the course of preparation to manned flight, the launch vehicle status, they have made a decision for December 15 launch of spacecraft crew transportation vehicle for Expedition 26 to ISS. The expedition crew is going to perform the flight that is 150 days duration. During that time, the crew is going to perform a huge amount of work. It's going to implement a vast program of scientific research and experiments in many different venues. Yesterday, in accordance with the schedule of the final stage of preparation for launch, the space launch vehicle has been rolled out to the space complex. Integrated tests have been performed. All the operations are completed with a high quality of reliability. Naturally, we're hoping that the crew expertise and its excellent training is going to allow it to implement everything that's planned for our flight program. And now the podium is provided to the head of the training center named Gagarin Training Center, Sergei Krikalev. And Dear Anatoly Nikolaevich and members of the State Committee, in order to perform space flight for Expeditions 26 and 27 of the International Space Station, the crew were trained in the following composition. Main crew, Kondratiev Dmitry Yurievich, cosmonaut, Roscosmos spacecraft commander, flight engineer of Expeditions 26 and 27. Paolo Nispoli, the cosmonaut of the European Space Agency, flight engineer Catherine Coleman, NASA astronaut, flight engineer of the Soyuz and flight engineer of the station. Backup crew, Ivanishin Anatoly Alexeyevich, commander of Soyuz spacecraft, flight engineer of Expeditions 26 and 27. Flight engineer Satoshi, flight engineer of Expeditions 26 and 27, and Soyuz vehicle flight engineer. And Mike Fossum, NASA astronaut, flight engineer of Soyuz vehicle and of ISS. The program has been fulfilled. All the astronauts and cosmonauts have passed all the exams and tests. And based on the statement of the medical committee, all the crew members are healthy and are ready to perform space flight. The Committee on the Determination of Crew Readiness for Flight has reviewed the results of program fulfillment and came to a statement. Expedition 26 and 27 crew for the TMA Soyuz crew transportation vehicle and ISS are ready for flight. The pre-launch preparation of the crew has also been fulfilled. The main crew, Dmitry Kondratiev is the commander. Flight engineer is Paolo Nespoli, and flight engineer 2, Catherine Coleman. Backup crew, flight commander Anatoly Ivanishin, flight engineer Satoshi Furukawa, and flight engineer 2, Michael Fossum. End of report. Now, the deputy program, ISS program director from NASA, is given the podium.
So, Dmitry, Paolo, and Katie would like to first thank you and congratulate you on behalf of NASA and completing all of your training successfully.
Дорогие Дмитрий, Пауло и Кетти, разрешите от имени Национального агентства по аэронавтике и космическим исследованиям выразить вам большие сердечные поздравления в связи с этим предстоящим стартом.
I've spoken with my colleagues back in Houston, and all is well on the on-orbit vehicle, and it's ready for your arrival.
Я накануне нашего сегодняшнего заседания переговорил с моими коллегами в Хьюстоне, и они заверили меня и сообщили, что на борту Международной космической станции все благополучно, и экипаж, находящийся на борту, с большим нетерпением ожидает вашего прибытия.
However, it's not complete with only 3 people on board, so they're anxiously awaiting your arrival.
Еще раз скажу, что экипаж на борту с нетерпением ждет возможности обнять вас при встрече.
You'll have a busy schedule when you arrive. In the first 3 months of your work on orbit, you'll have a progress vehicle, an HTV, an ATV, 2 spacewalks, and 1 shuttle.
Я должен предупредить вас, что вам придется поработать на славу, потому что с самого начала вашего полета программа будет очень насыщенной. Вам придется встретить целый ряд кораблей. Это и корабль «Российский прогресс» грузовой, и европейский грузовой корабль ATV, и японский корабль HTV. Кроме этого, выполнить 2 выхода в открытый космос и, в конце концов, встретить американский челнок «Шаттл».
So you'll have lots of hard work. But please take a little time to enjoy life on board the space station and look out the windows and see the magnificent world below.
То есть предстоит вам очень напряженная, тяжелая работа, но я прошу вас не забывать о том, что вы каждую минуту можете поглядеть в иллюминатор и увидеть в нем замечательную планету Земля. Поэтому не забывайте о такой возможности.
And I'd like to finish by congratulating Katie on the occasion of her birthday, and we have a present from
Мы благодарны нашим российским коллегам за то, что они не забыли о дне рождения Кетти. Я хотел бы присоединиться к этим словам поздравления и от имени НАСА также выразить большие поздравления Кетти в связи с наступившим днем рождения.
So we'll pass this to you. So to all the crew, best wishes and Godspeed.
Наилучшие пожелания всему экипажу, всего самого наилучшего, удачи.
The podium is given to the chief of the astronautics office of European Space Agency. I confirm that the crew members have undergone successfully all the necessary training. That is based on the European module Columbus and also ATV-2. The results of astronaut training are positive. On behalf of ESA management, congratulations to Roscosmos, RC Energia, and CTC for the organization of cosmonaut training and their preparedness for launch. I'm also thankful to NASA so that you were able to organize these expeditions. This is a very unusual crew. It's very professional, international, and it represents everything that we want to achieve in space.
Этот международный фактор помогает.
This international factor
Это посол Земли, когда мы летаем в космосе.
is a demonstration of
Эта экспедиция
Earth flying to
первым.
space. It represents
Это первые длительные экспедиции для ЕКА с итальянцем астронавтов.
It's the first expedition for ESA with an Italian astronaut. It's very important because Italy is a great contributor.
Первые длительные экспедиции для Чандра
The first astronaut for the shuttle expedition.
и первый полет для Дмитрия.
And then first flight for Dmitry Kondratyev.
Я вам желаю успешный запуск,
I'm wishing you a successful launch,
успешной экспедиции
a successful expedition,
и мягкой посадки, но не сейчас.
and soft landing, but not right now, a little later. A few days ago, the State Committee has approved the main crew for the next expedition for ISS. Dmitry Kondratyev, the Russian cosmonaut, the crew commander, flight engineer, and flight commander. Paolo Nespoli, Italian astronaut, flight engineer, and ISS flight engineer. Catherine Foreman, USA, flight engineer of Soyuz and ISS. Backup crew, commander, and commander of ISS, Anatoly Ivanishin.
Фурукава Сатоси, борт-инженер ТПК «Союз».
Furukawa Satoshi, flight engineer of Soyuz and flight engineer of ISS.
Майкл.
Michael Fossum,
Инженер 2 ТПК.
flight engineer 2, Soyuz and ISS, USA astronaut.
Вопросы?
We can ask questions to the main and to the backup crew. The request is to introduce yourself.
Телекомпания НТВ. У меня два вопроса. I have two questions. First for Catherine and the second one for Paulo. Catherine, first of all, today is your birthday, and I want to say happy birthday. It's your anniversary today. And you are the most experienced and among your teammates, and you're a woman. And I guess that you may know that during all these years, ISS have been changing towards being more woman-friendly. And did you notice those changes, and what are they? And the second question to Paulo. Paulo, I hope that you won't find my question a bit too personal, but still I'd like you to answer it. I heard that you met your future wife during your training in the Cosmonauts Preparation Center. Can you tell us your love story and how did that happen? Thank you.
Well, thank you for my birthday wishes. I feel very lucky to be turning 50 in the same year that Yuri Gagarin took his first flight to space. I think it's good for us as people to think in terms of big periods of time. Often we think about what did we do today? What did we do this week? What do we need to do this year? And it's in the short term, we're thinking in small steps. And sometimes an anniversary, like a birthday, or the anniversary of Gagarin's first flight in April, 50 years of human spaceflight, gives us an opportunity. Oh, excuse me, Vlad. Извините. Я забыла. Я забыла. Okay.
Ну, прежде всего, спасибо за поздравления. Я хочу сказать, что мне очень повезло отпраздновать свой юбилей в тот же год, когда и празднуется 50-летняя годовщина полета в космос Юрия Гагарина. Знаете, на самом деле мы всегда думаем такими категориями, как планирование чего-то на один день, планирование на неделю, планирование на год. И все состоит из таких маленьких шажков, и когда мы отмечаем такие юбилеи, как мой, то есть мои 50 лет, мы осознаем, как много было сделано за этот период.
Я знаю, что Влад можно все.
I know that Vlad can do anything. He's my favorite interpreter. Thank you.
So I think it's very significant to think about these great accomplishments and to realize that we accomplish them step by step. And I'm very proud to be part of our step, which is Expedition 26 to the International Space Station. And as for your question about whether the station has become friendly to all sorts of people, including women, I think all of us, when we go on a big trip, we think about what we need, what we think we need. And what I've heard on the station is that when we get up there, we really don't need very much to do the work that we are doing, except the right equipment and the right procedures, the right people on the ground. But as for the little things in life, I've heard they're just not important when you look out the window and you see the earth below.
So I think you want to know about my love story with Alexandra, who's sitting right there, by the way. I think I think love works in a mysterious way, and we still don't have a formula to make it work. So my mother wanted me to marry a girl from our town. This was when I was fairly young. And then I started traveling around, and every once in a while I would come over with a different girlfriend. So she settled for any girlfriend from Italy, and then after a while she settled for any girlfriend. That's it. No, though when finally Sasha and I got together, and it was a lucky moment that happened in a way that nobody knows, but it happened, and I brought her home. My mother was really happy, and there is a saying that says behind any great man there is a great woman. I'm not sure a great man, but for sure I have a great woman. Thank you.
И знаете, есть такая поговорка, что за спиной любого великого мужчины стоит великая женщина. Я, конечно, не могу сказать, что я великий мужчина, но за моей спиной точно есть великая женщина.
Thank you very much. Peter Oliver, RT. I have two questions, one for Dimitri and one for Paolo. If I can start with Dimitri, we understand you're quite the karate enthusiast, and we're wondering if you're going to be continuing your practice while on board the ISS, and if so, what effects do you think the zero gravity will have on your performance? And the second question to Paolo, the second question to Paolo, you're a very big guy. The Soyuz capsule, not that big. How are you looking forward to that squeeze?
Спасибо за вопрос. Я
Thank you for your questions. I'll respond.
Я считаю, что
I believe
исследование космического пространства и полеты в космос требует прежде всего хорошего здоровья. И не только просто здоровья для того, чтобы быть назначенным в экипаж для полета, но и прежде всего, чтобы у космонавтов и астронавтов было профессиональное долголетие. Это достичь практически невозможно, если человек не уделяет много внимания занятию физической культурой. Это может быть на любительском уровне, может быть на спортивном, профессиональном уровне. Поэтому я выбрал занятие спорт для себя, который мне нравится, который, я считаю, наиболее мне подходит. И, занимаясь этим видом спорта, переключаясь на другой вид
I've been feeling that I'm involved in improving my health, and I virtually get relief from my main work. I get rest, relaxation, and this gives me not only physical strength, but as you all know, karate has components, philosophical components, and this is a huge portion of development, not only of sports itself, but of human being. And therefore, I like this sports. And as far as doing this in space, well, of course, it's going to be limited. And let's say it's not going to be a full scope activity. There is a number of exercises. There are various kinds of exercises in that regard. There are breathing exercises, there are physical exercises, there are certain exercises you can do in microgravity conditions. Some elements of this particular sports activity I would be able to use. It will be useful, helpful. And as long as it doesn't do any damage to main activities, physical activities of Russian cosmonauts, and as long as it's in agreement with the requirements of the Institute of Medical and Biological Problems, there is a variety of activities, exercises, daily activity, and I believe that it's going to be helpful.
So you define me as a big guy. I would really not call me big. I'm tall, not too big. True, the Soyuz spacecraft is relatively small. I joke and say that it's as big as the back seat of a car normally. And if I have to really be truthful, I think it's, at least for me, it's not extremely comfortable. But that's not important. The important is that the spacecraft is reliable, can take us in space and can bring us back safely. And that, it does it very well. So we'll suffer a little bit, but we'll stay 6 months up there and work, which is very important.
Good evening. Peter Leonard, Associated Press. This is a question to all of you. You got to see the actual Soyuz itself a couple of days ago with your own eyes, and as you know, there was a last-minute replacement to the re-entry capsule. I was wondering if you could just talk us through the exact why this took place, and if you're satisfied with the safety levels of the Soyuz now. And a second question for Paolo. I saw from your Twitter account that you've been complaining about the food served to you over here, and I was wondering if you're concerned whether, with 6 months in space, whether you're going to be dissatisfied with the, I don't know, the poor quality of the risotto or the cazuela, maybe, I don't know. So that's it.
Indeed, there was a replacement. There was an issue with the spacecraft, with descent capsule. It was replaced by a new one. The new one didn't have any damage. But of course, all the necessary procedures, all the necessary steps that are supposed to be performed for checkout of integrity, those were done without any exceptions. They were performed successfully. And during the fit check, the state of the capsule was checked out, and based on the results, there were absolutely no issues, and we have no doubts in the reliability of the spacecraft, and I'm certain that the flight will be nominal.
About the complaining about the food, that it was almost a joke between me and Mike Fossum here that, you know, for breakfast was having caviar, yogurt, kefir, coffee, chicken, pasta, eggs. No, eggs not. Cucumbers and tomato. And you know, yeah. The problem is that I'm Italian. We have a very strict way of eating, and that breakfast broke every single rule that we have. So we were just joking about that, and we were asking the people there on Twitter if what they think. By the way, most of the Italians were horrified, and most of the rest of the world were envy about him. The food in station, it's extremely important, of course, because from one side give us enough protein and calories to sustain our body, and the other side is also a psychological moment, both from a taste point of view than a social point of view, because we try always to eat it together. And we put a lot of attention into this food. I have no complaint. I've seen that both NASA and Roscosmos have taken this very seriously, and I'm satisfied with what we have on board. We will have a great time. And I would say that the food here, it's extremely good. There is a dedicated team of people that really cook us very great, good food, and we are really grateful for this.
Спасибо.
Thank you. Next question.
Наталья Бурцева, студия Роскосмос.
Natalia Burtseva, Studio Roscosmos. Tell us, is it true that you are going to celebrate April the 12th, this grandiose holiday? And what are your plans for the celebration? Do you have any surprises? Or tell us, frankly, are you going to communicate with school children? And this is the first question. The second one to backup crew. Everything is so exciting. Japanese, Russian, English. Right now, Paolo speaks Italian. Please tell us, what language do you speak among yourselves? What is the common language, and which one is your favorite? And which language are you planning to communicate in at the ISS? I'm going to join what Catherine Coleman said, that the 50 years of the first flight of men in space is a grand event for the entire world, not just for Russia. It's the symbol of the beginning of a new era, human flight in space. And I believe that it's going to be celebrated all over the world. And I think that even by asking the question, you have listed most of those events that are going to happen in which we're going to be involved. I think that's important for the crew and for all the people to communicate not only with correspondents, with journalists, or with people who represent space industry, but with school children and students all over the world, not only in Russia, but in the United States, in Europe, it could be Africa, Australia, because human flight in space, 51st flight, is indeed an important step in the development of the entire humanity. And I'm hoping that 50 years that have passed since the first flight have made its huge contribution into the development of this field. And I'm also hoping that the next 50 years will be no less significant, and we're hoping to see during the next 50 years more significant events or as significant as Gagarin flight.
I'd like to actually steal something that Paolo says that I like very much, which is that when we think about 50 years of the space program and the history of the space program, the places that we get to be are very special. And what he says that I really love is, he says, I feel like when I'm in these places like Baikonur or Star City, training, and here in Baikonur for launch, I feel like I'm walking on the pages of history. And I imagine that as the crew that's on board the International Space Station on this very special day, we won't be walking on the pages of history. We'll be floating, and I think we'll be floating in the cupola, looking out the window and reflecting on the place that we get to enjoy this anniversary.
Спасибо. Дублирующий экипаж, пожалуйста.
Thank you. Please, backup crew. You were correct. Our crew is international, and I would say that it could have been any more international than it is already, and it's fair to say about the main crew as well. Speaking of the languages which we speak, I would say, unfortunately, we do not have a full command of all languages. Not all languages are accessible to us. And if we were to speak about the most evolved person from our crew, it's Satoshi, by all means. If Mike is going to be better, the one who has full command of the English language, but his Russian, I can evaluate. It's almost as if he lived all his life in the Ryazan region. As far as my knowledge of Japanese, it's very limited. And so we have only two languages that we can communicate in, Russian and English. Nevertheless, perhaps it's also very surprising that we understand one another so well in spite of coming from such different countries and different continents. Thank you. May I respond in Japanese? That was a joke. Generally speaking, International Space Station, we speak English or Russian. But among the crew, it depends on many things. Right now, we've been living in observation mode, and Anatoly told me that, in English today, good morning, доброе утро, in Russian, and I responded to him in Russian, доброе утро. Thank you.
That's enough. Here you go.
Rob Navius with NASA Television. Two questions for Katie. Happy birthday, first of all, Katie. In part due to the launch delays to the next two space shuttle missions to early February and early April, the increment now will see almost non-stop traffic from multinational vehicles representing the international partnership. How complex will your increment now become, both in terms of the workload and the goals you hope to achieve? And I have a follow-up.
Well, this crew likes to work. And I think we're going to have a lot of work to do. I'm excited, and I think the guys are as well, because these various supply vehicles and operations, so we have a Japanese supply vehicle, a European supply vehicle, we have the Progress, which is the Russian supply vehicle. They all dock or, meet the station in different ways, and in fact the Japanese supply vehicle comes and hovers close by the station, and then Paolo and I will use the controls of the robotic arm to actually reach out, capture that, and then install it on the station. So these vehicles, and then add the shuttle onto that, represent the absolute international nature of our space station, and the fact that we're all working together to make these things work, because they're bringing things that we really need. And with respect to being ready for those challenges, we learn as a crew many generic skills: how to operate the robotic arm, how to prepare a port on the space station for the arrival of a supply vehicle. And so we know how to do those things generically. The fact that there are more of them than expected should not be a problem. And for the specific elements of which shuttle, which tasks, then we have ways of getting that information from the ground and reviewing it ahead of time.
And the follow-up for Katie, it's been a little over 15 years since your first flight into space as a mission specialist on a dedicated scientific research flight. In your wildest imagination, could you have dreamed of an opportunity to be a researcher for 5 months on a complex like the ISS?
My first mission was a laboratory mission, 16 days, 30 different experiments, but the main purpose was to understand, since we are building a space station, how can we conduct science and engineering in space? What do we need to do to get data down to the ground and instructions up to the crew? If you look at the patch from that mission, you will see the cupola window of the space station. It has that shape and that picture. And it's because we were getting ready for the space station, and I'm very excited about going and conducting those experiments now.
Спасибо.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Francisco Guaita for Spanish RT. Happy birthday, Catherine, first of all. I would like to know about the superstition and the traditions, how it mixes, and for example, for you, Catherine, what does it mean, superstitions or traditions, and which is the line that there's a lot of, obviously, history on this process, but where is the line between superstition and tradition, and which are your favorite tradition during these last days of this process that you will make history?
I think that putting on a spacesuit involves almost a ritual. You do it the same way every single time, and it's a way of preparing yourself for the journey and knowing that you're ready and that you'll be safe. So I think more in terms of ritual than superstition or tradition. But one of the traditions I've been introduced to here in Baikonur is that every cosmonaut, astronaut, gets to go and plant a tree right here at the Cosmonaut Hotel. And that tree represents their voyage on the Soyuz.
Dominique Dotin, ISA TV, on behalf of the Italian journalist who could not make it, Paolo. Come stai? E altra questa, tu fai parte di una squadra molto simbolica, un russo, un americano, un europeo, un giapponese. La soluzione della cooperazione. I'm gonna say it in English now. I'm gonna say it in English, okay? I'll translate. So the first question is, how are you? The second question, that you're part of a very symbolic crew, a European, an American, a Russian, there's also a Japanese here. So is cooperation the solution? And the last question, Paolo, what will you take with you from Italy?
Well, everything is under control. Everything is good, so I feel good. I think we all feel good, especially after the big state commission gave us the thumb up to fly in space. Yes, I think the international cooperation is one of the answers for going in space. If we want to keep going in this exploration, going back to the moon, to Mars, and keep going again, we are too small as countries to do this. We need to put together all the resources that are around the world and go as humanity. And I don't have that many things that I bring in space for me. From Italy, I think I bring two main things. One is myself, and the other one is the flag that I usually carry on my shoulder. And I think this is important. And I would like to very quickly ringraziare tutti gli italiani che mi hanno sostenuto fino adesso. Grazie.
Thank you.
Разрешите, я добавлю немного. Поскольку
Allow me to add a little bit. Since the subject is about traditions and superstitions, our crew here have a good old tradition, not a superstition, that the crew of Soyuz for the past few years develops an emblem, a symbol based on drawings, and our crew is no exception. In the Russian Space Agency, there is a competition, an all-Russian competition for children's drawings, and it is geared to selecting a basis for the manned flight emblem, and our symbol is here. And after it is going to be manufactured in the usual way, here you see there's a spacecraft, Soyuz. There is the Milky Way here. You see the flags of countries, participants of the ISS crew, our names, and the names of spacecraft. And you can also see the constellation of Big Dipper. And it's a symbol of the fact that space flight is represents combined efforts of all countries, both hemispheres, the northern and the southern hemisphere, in order to serve the purpose of developing space exploration and research, and to develop new orbits, lunar orbits, and go beyond the solar system perhaps someday. And this was the drawing that won a prize. The author is Marina Korolenko. She is the first grade student of Snezhnogorsk City, Murmansk region, Russian Federation. She made a drawing. I don't think we have it here, but Roscosmos should have it. You can look it up. And there is a symbol here. The symbol itself is here, the emblem of the crew that has been flying currently, and the one that we're going to join pretty soon. And I think that it's going to be a very good tradition that is going to continue. And I'm inviting all children, all youths, all young people, girls and boys, and young women and men to participate in the competition. And also Roscosmos is a part of that tradition. They ask the children who are winners of the competition to Baikonur, and they can visit Baikonur they have been here during the October launch. The girl communicated with the cosmonauts, the winner of the competition, and this is also part of the award. A visit to Baikonur, talking to specialists who participate in launch processing, in preparation for launch with the cosmonauts, and to view personally the spacecraft launch with their emblem on board the spacecraft. In our city, they're developing a launch vehicle where orbital launches happen. And we have met many children. They're always excited about new launches. And if you have any wishes to people who are creators of this technology, we'll accept them too. Thank you. Cosmonauts do not separate themselves from thousands of people who are involved on tens and dozens of enterprises here at Baikonur and in the rest of Russia. We're a portion of a huge collective, huge cooperation. And by all means, the space flight is not possible without the efforts of thousands and thousands of people, without their contribution. And therefore, our crew is very well aware of a huge responsibility that we bear for a successful flight and successful completion of all the goals that are involved in this flight. And we feel our connection with all the people that are involved in supporting our launch. And final question, please. We know that cosmonauts are very versatile people. It's hard to imagine somebody other than cosmonaut who would be such a versatile person. Like, let's say Dmitry, he's into sports, he plays the flute, and we know that you're going to take your flute along with you on orbit. Maybe you can demonstrate it to us. Maybe we can hear the sound of it here. I think everybody's going to be happy.
It's in the red jacket. Yeah. So, мы будем жить в космос.
We're going to be living in space.
And living as people involves, bringing your whole self up to space.
Живя в космосе означает все свое я.
Living up in space means that you bring your whole person, you bring your interests, you bring the things that you love to do, and you bring, I think we need to be able to do things in our spare time. Every minute of the workday is spent doing experiments, maintaining equipment, installing new capabilities in the space station. It's very busy and it's very hard work. And I think to be healthy and come back and work hard the next day, you need to be able to relax a little bit. Me, I love to play the flute, and one of the things I love about it during our training in Russia, in Japan, in Europe, and in the United States is that I bring my flute, and I think we work better together during the day because we do things like this at night together. So I'm going to play a song called a Hallelujah. I think it's words that all of us know in many cultures.
Я хочу вам сыграть композицию, которая называется «Аллилуйя». Я думаю, большинство ее знает, она известна во всех культурах.
Спасибо, прекрасно.
Thank you. That was beautiful.
Это был заключительный вопрос.
That was the final question.
Если хотят космонавты обратиться.
If the cosmonauts want to address something or to say something, then please. I would like to say that I've already mentioned that today at the State Committee, the words of gratitude to those who participated in creation of space technology, in development of experiments, in crew training. So to everyone who has contributed to this opportunity of tomorrow's flight, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Let's thank the crew. Let's wish them a good flight, good work, and soft landing. Thank you.
Это мой подарок.
This is my gift. right, Jamie. Oh, wait, this is even better. Oh, it's hot. Jamie, look.